welcome to Carlos and Lisa. I'm Lisa Remillard.
And I'm Carlos Amesquitz. Nice to have you with us. Yes, we're still doing this way. You look resplendent in, is it orange or red? I can't tell.
It's orange.
It's orange. It's very bright. It's cheery for this day.
I'm trying to cheer myself up. You know, I've been stuck in this damn house for way too long, so I'm just doing what I can to just put some kind of, I had, Carlos, I don't know about you, and I feel like I've talked about it with my friends a bunch, but I had one of those moments yesterday where I was like starting to freak out a little bit. I had one of those like white knuckle moments yesterday. Have you had one?
How long has it been?
It feels like 100 years. I don't know.
I think it's been, a month. It's been over a month and maybe a week and a half or almost 2 weeks. That's a long time to be kind of not necessarily stuck, as some of us have gone out and gone shopping and got groceries. I think I've been out twice. Mm-hmm. But it starts to feel really confining and boxing. And it's like, what am I going to do when they finally release us? Well, am I going to go cuckoo? What am I going to do?
In my head,
every night, go to the bars, go to games that don't exist. I mean, what am I going to do?
I don't know. I keep saying I'm going to all the restaurants, like in one city. I'm going to just go restaurant to restaurant to restaurant, if they'll let me, of course. You know, because who knows what the rollout of opening this thing up is going to look like? Who really knows? But in my ideal world, it's like I'm going to all the restaurants, and then I'm going immediately to my hairdresser because my hair is so ratchet, like I can't look at it anymore. It's like embarrassing.
Let's see. I actually think my first stop's going to be In-N-Out Burger. I've been craving an In-N-Out Burger with pickles. Thanks to you.
You're welcome for that little tip.
Yeah. And
you can still go to In-N-Out, Carlos. You can get takeout.
And then I'll probably go to Wood Ranch.
Ooh, and sit down. Like, I want to go because, look, I love a restaurant. Like, I love going to restaurants. It's like my happy place. I don't have much joy in my life, and so that makes me happy. And, like, all I want to do, I was just saying to some friends yesterday, all I want to do is sit in a restaurant and have some nice server come up to me and say, hello, welcome to blank. What kind of cocktails would you like? And I'll be like, I want all the cocktails. Bring them all to me.
And okay, this is may sound a little creepy, but I'm going to like hug everybody.
Right?
I feel like I need to hug somebody.
Like friends and like, hi, how you doing? Like
to see my mom and dad and hug them, hug my brothers and my sister. And,
exactly.
Like, we're such, I'm a very huggy guy. I love to hug people. And so I miss that.
In an appropriate way, of course, not in a creepy way.
Yeah, I'm not Joe Biden. But anyway.
Carlos.
Here, let me smell your hair.
Stop. That's weird. Now you're being weird. Stop being weird.
It got weird very quickly.
It got weird real quick. But you're right. You're right. It's like we miss like
human interaction.
Our friends and our family and the, a friend of mine just had a baby and it's so strange. She literally had a baby and all this nonsense. And then I saw pictures yesterday of her and her parents can't even hold the baby because and so the parents were 6 feet away at her house looking at the baby, like just like looking. It's such a weird thing.
I know. I also have a friend who just had a heart transplant and a kidney transplant at the same time. And you want to support, you want to be there for him. I want him to, obviously know that I care and am interested in what he's doing, but I can't get anywhere near the hospital, obviously.
Right.
Don't want to be in a hospital. And he's had to go through this all by himself. And he's such a champ. He got through it just fine. They just removed the tubes and he's like on social media connecting with everybody. And I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could just go say hi and be with him and support him and show him how much we love him? But these are the things we can't do.
I know. So when it all gets locked down and, the politicians and the leaders in charge of all of our individual states are saying it's probably not going to be like a switch. And Dr. Fauci said it's not a switch that's going to turn on and everything's going to go back. It's going to be, slow rolled. So, but in my perfect world, it's a switch. And like, everybody's like, release the hounds. We're out.
I actually, you know how much I love San Diego. I may just take a drive to San Diego, walk on the beach, go see my friends, go see my family. And these are the things that all of us are thinking about, not just here, but all over the country. everybody's talking about what's it going to be, you know, release the horses. And they, you know, I know the government wants to do a nice staggered, easy, even, whole systematic kind of, it's like, open the gate, the horses are going to run.
Totally. I mean, do you remember that old JCPenney commercial? I think it was JCPenney or Marshall's maybe, or no, it's a Mervyn's commercial. The old, with a lady.
Yeah, Mervyn's.
Mervyn's. Yes, that's how I feel right now. So I'm sure you guys at home feel the same way. We have a great show for you, a social distance show, continuing that new tradition that we've started.
And we thank you so much for hanging in there with us as we go through this time with you. But we hope you appreciate all the content we've been delivering and the things that we've been concocting to keep you interested, informed, and entertained. So here we go.
All of this self-quarantining that we have been dealing with for the last few weeks brings up a lot of emotional issues for a lot of us. So we invited our friend, clinical psychologist, Dr. Howard Gluss, to come here and talk a little bit about how we should manage these emotions. Dr. Gluss, this is a marathon. It's now not a sprint anymore.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Lisa, for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. What I'm telling my patients right now is to imagine that we're on a roller coaster ride. You know, when you first go on a roller coaster, everything seems normal, and then you start to climb up, and then you anticipate this anxiety that's going to start to happen. Well, I feel like we're on that free flow right now. We're going around the corner. We don't know what's going to happen next. And that's scary for people because people want to feel secure. And one of the ways they want to feel secure is to know what's ahead of them. But the reality is that we're in the unknown right now. We really don't know exactly what's going to happen, how long it's going to take. So with that, we have to be able to let go of that need to know and just focus on what we do know. So one of the best pieces of advice I can give to listeners is deal with what's going on in the moment, that turn that you're about to go on. That's what you have to focus on. You don't know where the rest is going to go, but you know you're going to be able to make it. So deal with the day, deal with the moment. But remember, at the end, we always get off that roller coaster ride.
Yeah. Let's talk about, you know, I think a lot of people are dealing with this feeling of mourning, grief, not just, God forbid, if they've lost somebody in all of this, but also on a real kind of micro level, they're mourning and grieving kind of the life that they had, the ability to have freedom to go outside and do what they wanted and see their friends and go to restaurants. And that's just not happening. And I think a lot of people, myself included, are feeling a little stir crazy / grieving for that life that I had.
Well, you know, it's very much like the grieving process. You're right, that like as though if someone had passed away. So a lot of times we're in shock, then we're in disbelief, then we go through depression, and eventually there's a sense of acceptance. So we're experiencing that loss, but I tell people, remember, it's going to come back, but we're not exactly sure how it's going to come back. So this is temporary. And there can also come back in a very positive way. So we're in the midst of the storm right now. So allow yourself the emotional space to grieve, to feel the emotions, to get frustrated. I tell patients all the time, why don't you just take the first 10 minutes of a session and just vent. I just want to hear you vent, let it out, and then we'll talk about what you're experiencing. So emotions are very important to, as you said, Lisa, get them off your chest and work through them.
You know, the other thing I'm seeing is a lot of people are on social media because there's really not a lot else we can do. And, you know, I at least am seeing a lot of people in my feed talking about how they're doing these great things and they've got these big home projects that they're working on and they're building their business plan and they're doing all these wonderful things. And I have some other friends that are like, I can barely get out of bed. Is it okay to not be accomplishing major things right now?
I think you have to be true to yourself to where you're at in the moment. So if you're in a place where you're feeling, as we said, the depression, the anxiety over the loss, maybe you're going through a more intense grieving process than some other people because of the work that you did or the relationships that you had have been impacted more. The best advice I give people is just allow it to be whatever it's going to be and be true to yourself and be authentic. And also know that, lean on those people that are being highly productive during that time, and use those relationships as associations to try to uplift yourself. I get that from patients all the time. They say it's not the same thing. And I said, no, I know it's not the same thing, but it's what we have. And thank God we have that. So let's use it for what it is.
And then lastly, let's talk about the kind of some of the opportunities that have presented themselves since we're all stuck at home. I know you said you had a patient that is learning a new way of dating in this world, and it's actually becoming something beneficial to him.
Well, we had a great laugh about it today. I was talking to him and he said, he really wanted to date, but a lot of times he feels like he wants to sort of get to know someone. And he decided to go online, and he went on some of these dating services. And he said, what's great is there is this assumption now that, I may meet you, Lisa, but I'm not going to physically get to meet you for probably several months. So I am actually being forced to get to know someone. So I thought that was great. I said, well, there's a way that we can bring something positive, that by the time you get to meet this woman, you're actually going to be probably really good friends. And you're also going through a tragedy together, a very difficult time, and that bonds people. So that's what I mean about being really creative with the time. There are other people that will say, no, I can't do anything right now. I think we have to look at this time and get highly creative. And I see people doing it, and I find that inspirational.
It certainly is. Dr. Howard Gluss, always great to see you. Thank you for your time and your expertise in this matter. I know it's going to be very helpful to all of our viewers.
I appreciate it very much, and I wish everyone an inspirational time. Get creative. This is the time to do it.
Well, what if you're stuck at home and you have all your children, they can't go to school because they're closed, and they're not closed until the end of the year? Well, we have to ask our fab mom, Jill Simonian, how she's coping with her kids. And I heard you're like making them do the Pledge of Allegiance and everything. Hi, Jill.
Yes, hi, because how are you, Carlos? First of all, it's so good to see you. Any kind of face-to-face interaction these days, I think for all of us is so soul lifting, so it's really good to see your face. We do the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning, and we also do a prayer in the morning, and we do things to progressively pass the time day by day. So that's what's happening here.
So, I mean, at some point it became very real, right? Like, the kids aren't going back to school. They can't be on their video screens all day long. They can't be just running around the house, causing mayhem. So you structured your day pretty well, didn't you? You figured it out.
I did. And I figured it out fully to the credit. And my sister is a teacher, and we talk daily, and my mom was a teacher and my grandmother was a teacher. So it's sort of like, I've sort of had these voices in my head about, creating a schedule for kids. And pretty quickly this is our third week under, safer at home distance learning, as we all call it. So this is our third week. And I will say from the get-go, even when all of this was supposedly only going to be for maybe like 1 or 2 weeks, I said, I knew for my own sanity, for their sense of security, I said, I'm just going to, we're going to have one day is like a free day. Oh, it's a mushy day. We're going to figure out what this day is about. But then the days after that, I started on a schedule just to keep all of us productive, to keep all of us active. And, we have our moments. Don't get me wrong. There are snippy, crazy moments. But all in all, it's been working pretty well. And it's a schedule that I started from 10 to 2. And it's a loose schedule, but it is a schedule.
What are you telling your kids now about all this? And of course, they're missing their friends. They want to go out and play. What do you say to them?
Everyone is missing their friends. And I've always been a big believer of being honest in a very age-appropriate way. My girls, I will say, they're in this, what I like to call, I call it like the sweet spot for age, because even though they're older, they're 8 and 9, they're still little. So I'm not dealing with the teenager emotions and I'm also not dealing with the toddler years, which is a whole different ballgame. And I think about parents who have toddlers at home right now, and it's like my heart is aching for you. But with my girls, I've been very honest. And from the get-go, when we first started this distance learning, I said, here's what's happening. There's a sickness that's going around the world. Nobody knows what it is. The scientists and the doctors are working around the clock to figure this out. And our job right now, as students and teachers and parents, our civic duty, and I told them that word, civic duty. And I said, our civic duty is to stay home and do this. And we're on a team and we're going to do this. And I sort of, even though I'm scared inside, don't get me wrong, I came from this, I'm not scared, so you're not going to be scared either, and we're going to do this. And I'm looking at this as a way to sort of empower them as to here's what we can do, as opposed to here's what we can't.
Well, that's why you're the fab mom. But now here's the question I have for you.
Yeah.
Are you the fab wife?
I don't know. That is a darn good question.
Are you guys getting on each other's nerves?
We were. And I'll tell you, because my husband, my husband's a doctor. He's a surgeon. Right. And as of, the days are running into each other now. But, last week, I think it was, he officially had to shut down his private practice because he's a plastic surgeon and a lot of his cases are elective. He is seeing a few patients here and there, but for the most part, he is home and he's only doing Skype consultations and, office paperwork, administrative things right now. But he's been home, and the first few days I was like, I had this homeschool thing going 10 to 2. We do lessons, we do recess, I had this whole thing. And the first day he was home, it totally jacked everything up. And I was like, you're ruining my schedule. But after that, we've sort of found this rhythm, and he stays to himself, and then he comes and helps us. And then what's really great is that he's here now because I tell him full on, I go, I'm going to be really honest. I'm this close to breaking. I need to go in the room I need to go in my room for like 20, 30 minutes.
You need a break, yeah.
We're starting. It started not good, but now it's ending up pretty good where this situation is forcing us to really try to be a team. So it's okay.
So the two things we've learned is to get your kids on a structured schedule.
Structured schedule.
And be open communications with your spouse to keep your sanity. Jill Simone and our fab mom, we miss you. We love you. And I wish you the very best. We'll talk again in a few days, okay? Be well.
Okay. You too. Bye.
Bye.
We are all still under these stay-at-home orders. Every state in this country has issued a disaster declaration, and we are giving up a lot of our liberties, our rights, for the greater good, the public health, to make sure that everybody stays safe and healthy. So the question is, how long do our leaders have to continue on this path? Our friend, four-time Assembly member Mike Gatto is here to talk about the constitutionality of all of this. Hi, Mike.
Hi, it's great to join you.
Good to see you. Okay, so my first question is, I see a lot of people saying, I'm giving up my rights. Is this legal? Blanket, is it legal for them to tell me I have to stay home? Is it legal for them to tell me I can't go to work? Is it legal for them to tell me I can't go to the beach or to public places?
Yeah, so executives, governors and mayors and presidents have broad authority as long as there has been a disaster declaration. There's a famous quote from a Supreme Court decision where a justice said, the Constitution is not a suicide pact, meaning that we don't obviously have to harm the public just to follow constitutional rights. But I do believe that there are limits, and executives can only go so far. Several of the actions that governors and mayors have taken in the past several weeks, I think have crossed the line, and other measures, of course, are permissible.
All right, let's talk about obviously at this point, it's an opinion of yours right now, so we want to make sure, it's based in fact, and of course, you're not just like shooting from the hip here, but it is an opinion. But I'm genuinely interested in what is the line? What crosses the line as to overuse of power versus the public good?
Sure. So let me give you an example. So the other day, there was a mayor of a city who said that churches cannot hold services, even if they hold them in parking lots, even if everybody stays in their cars and it's a drive-through. And a federal judge said, you're allowing McDonald's to have drive-throughs. You're allowing Home Depot to let people congregate in a parking lot. This starts to look like you're discriminating against religious institutions. That violates the First Amendment. You can't do that.
Okay. And what would you think, in your opinion, is something that has been enacted by a governor or a mayor or, that we think might cross the line, but it actually doesn't?
Well, gosh, I hate for, I think all the parents out there who are suffering through the stay-at-home orders and homeschooling their kids and everything, and a lot of people are anxious to go back to work. But chances are that the stay-at-home orders, at least at this point, do not violate the Constitution because, they're taking reasonable steps calculated to slow the spread of a disease during an emergency. And because of that, somebody challenging the stay-at-home orders would probably lose if they went to court because this will be seen as a reasonable step. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in between. There's a lot of different other rights that are implicated during this pandemic.
Like what?
Well, for example, a lot of people we talked about last week, probably coming soon will be the government will say, you need to get a coronavirus passport. You need to prove that you've been tested and that you're clean. A lot of people floated that as a way to get the economy back. Technically that's a search. They're searching your blood, and that's something that typically the Constitution wouldn't tolerate. I don't know if people are going to sue under that. That will be something that's pretty darn borderline as far as I'm concerned.
I would say 100% somebody's going to sue over that. I mean, come on. So that's the delicate balance that we are all living through right now, which is fascinating and also scary. So what is the line? What are we willing to give up? I think the question really becomes, what are we willing to give up in personal liberty for the greater good? And my thought is that everybody individually has a different line. So how do you make that an umbrella issue for all of us?
Yeah, you're right. Everybody does have a different line about what they're willing to give up. But, courts in history have been pretty uniform, and there have been some themes that have developed. When a president crosses the line or a governor crosses the line by doing something like interning the Japanese or, going around in the entertainment industry and trying to root out communists by forcing people to divulge their political preferences, history looks back at those things with disdain. We look back and say that crossed the line, and a court would be likely to strike down laws like that. Then there are other rights that we have given up, things like after 9/11. We lost a lot of rights after 9/11. Some people have noted those typically don't come back. As long as a court does say that that's, hey, people want to be safe to fly and these things seem like they're reasonable, those rights never come back. But then there's a third category of things that are, clearly legal. Right now, most of the stuff that executives is doing falls in that category. But I think there's going to start to be a lot of pushback and a lot of lawsuits if this continues for longer than, let's say, another month.
Okay, I have two issues in there. One, so you mentioned the testing and perhaps the blanket order that everybody has to be tested in order to re-enter society, which obviously causes constitutional, questions. And the other one that I think is interesting that I've been hearing circulated a lot is that they're going to use cell phone data to determine and track you, perhaps, and they couch it by saying, well, you have to opt in. In reality, we know that's not really the case. So do those things cross the line?
Well, contact tracing is a really interesting one. That's what they call that cell phone tracking to see who's been in touch with whom. That would be the idea, of course, that typically you're free to associate with whoever you wish. You're free to assemble. You can go protest, and those 30 people who protest something have a right to tell the government that they're upset. But in this circumstance, the government would be monitoring you. Personally, this scares me. This is something that I think is really alarming. It's something that Americans have traditionally said, whoa, this starts to sound like a dictatorship somewhere else in the world. But it's amazing. Some very, very, great thinkers out there are proposing this, and they're in fact demanding it. You look on Twitter, there's a lot of very, very brilliant journalists saying, we demand contact tracing right now. For me, it's a little troubling. And I think something like that, unless the government can show that there's a clear, ability to reduce the spread of coronavirus due to it, I think that courts might have some issues with it.
And so the remedy, by the way, just so we're clear about all of this, the remedy for all of these things, these orders that are being enacted that could potentially cause liberty issues, I mean, the way to remedy that is through the court system?
Yes, and as some has pointed out, though, yes, a lot of courts out there are open for temporary restraining orders and emergency edicts, but by and large, courts are closed as well. So right now, you have the perfect storm for constitutional violations because the courts are overwhelmed, their hours have been reduced, judges are very skeptical about allowing certain cases to proceed. So we're in a weird situation that I would say the United States has probably never faced, and that is, you have a non-war, you have a pandemic going on. You have executives, governments, and governors, mayors, and president taking steps that are very borderline from a constitutional perspective, and the courts aren't even, in many cases, open to allow you to challenge them.
My last question to you is, all of our leaders are operating under these kind of emergency powers. These emergency declarations have been enacted, so our governors and our president and, all of our leaders are kind of doing these things, they say, for the public good, and because it's this emergency situation. How long, legally, constitutionally, is an emergency? I'm not a constitutional expert, but an emergency, in my view, has a time limit. Is there a time limit?
Precisely, and that's something that dictators in banana republics have traditionally. It's a constant emergency. There's always somebody who might invade us or something going on. But the sad thing is, a lot of these things, and courts have even observed this, a lot of these things are really enforced electorally. If an executive, tries to take emergency powers too far, then there's going to be some pushback. There's going to be pushback from the media, from the people, from the legislatures, and ultimately the voters. The reality is that is some of our only remedies is go out there and vote, make sure that if somebody, but obviously as we stare down the summer and possibly, being under de facto house arrest for a long period of time, voting in November is not necessarily the most comforting, but a lot of these things are just enforced by public opinion.
Whew. Well, that's terrifying, Mike. Jeez. All right. Well, this has been a really, really interesting conversation. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions that come out of this conversation, and hopefully we will see you again and answer them. You all are doing well at home?
Doing well, surviving everything, homeschooling the 3 little kids, and hopefully you're doing well as well.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
So many questions about the economy given the coronavirus situation that we all find ourselves in now. And what does that look like in the future? We're hearing the president talk about what that looks like. The governors are all talking about it in different sectors of the country, and even the cities are questioning what that's going to look like. Well, Dr. Matthew Fienup of Cal Lutheran University, he's executive director for the Center for Economic Research and Forecasting. I actually had to read it because the title is so long. Dr. Fienup, nice to see you.
Hey, great to be back. Thanks for having me, Carlos.
So you put on your forecasting cap and said, this is what you see. Tell me about this life-changing event that we're experiencing right now and how you look at it.
Well, to sort of give you a sense, this has been a stunning 3 or 4 weeks. So given the uncertainty about the rate of transmission of the coronavirus and the disease associated with it, and frankly, uncertainty about the duration of shelter-in-place orders, the shuttering of the U.S. economy that we're experiencing, we actually developed a range of forecast scenarios. We have a baseline scenario, and we had a pessimistic scenario. Literally, as data started to arrive about the impacts of shelter-in-place orders, we've had to revise the forecast 3 times now. All 3 times, the pessimistic scenario became the baseline scenario, and we needed an even more pessimistic scenario. And so this is something I've never experienced before. The most sort of the real headline grabber of the last week was that we now know 17 million people filed for initial unemployment claims in the last 3 weeks. The number from 2 weeks ago was about 6.9 million people. And that literally broke the previous record by 15 times. 15 times more people applied for unemployment benefits last week than the previous record in 1982. And so even as we await more data, we can say unmistakably that the U.S. has entered a deep recession. And this is a life-changing event that literally has no comparison in the post-World War II era.
I was going to ask you, pre-World War II, we had the Great Depression. How does it compare to that?
Well, so it's a little hard to compare it directly to the Great Depression because this is such a different economy, right?
Yeah.
Wealth is so much greater, educational attainment, economic opportunities for mobility are higher. And so it's hard to compare to say, is this worse or not? But to be clear, we're sort of in the same ballpark, that by comparison, the Great Recession and the tremendous economic displacement that it caused looks like a pretty modest downturn in comparison to what we're experiencing right now. And to sort of put a number on it, we're predicting a total peak to trough. So from the height of economic activity before the coronavirus to the depth of the recession we're predicting, we're forecasting a decline of about 19% of economic activity. By comparison, the Great Recession, 2008 to 2009, was a decline of 4%.
Wow.
This is a whole different category. We're anticipating about 30 million jobs lost. The Great Recession only saw a little over 8 million jobs lost.
Let me take the optimistic scenario. Let's say we have a diverse economy, we have a global economy, we're connected globally on every aspect of our economy now, as opposed to the 30s and even the 80s. We've become much more technologically connected. So there are some who are saying that we will bounce back rather dramatically, that this recession won't last, the trough won't be as deep as perhaps predicting.
In fact, so we're part of a survey of 57 forecasting houses that the Wall Street Journal does monthly. And in the most recent survey, 55% of the forecasters surveyed by the Wall Street Journal believe that we're going to experience a V-shaped recovery, a rapid rebound. Wow. We are among the 45%. So notice they're almost evenly split, but we're among the 45% that believe you cannot shutter 25% of the economy and expect a rapid rebound. First of all, just think about how the disease is working out, right? Our models of disease transmission involve a tremendous amount of uncertainty. They're constantly being revised. How will we know when to open the economy? It's not like we're going to be able to open it as rapidly as we shuttered it.
Yeah.
And then, frankly, there are people's behaviors going to change. We're not all going to rush out and gather fewer than 6 feet apart at restaurants when this is over, right? So
we could have a second wave of infection, is what you're saying.
And businesses are not going to be the same. So even the ones who are able to weather the government-imposed closures are going to be debt-burdened at best. They are going to be dangling by a thread in many cases. And I just expect growth and hiring to be very, very, very slow in the aftermath.
All right. So in the last question I have for you, bottom line, I mean, that's a pretty horrible scenario for most of us who are in small business. Who is going to be impacted the most, and where can we see a little bit of daylight?
Well, I mean, the daylight is that, like you hinted at this, that we're Americans, right? That we are the most innovative, prosperous group probably ever to live on the face of the earth, right? And so we will get through this. We will be a strong economy again. I just don't think particularly quickly, but we are our own daylight. But there is no doubt that there are millions of small businesses that are really, really, really threatened right now. And again, the government is trying to reach out to provide support, but it's the government that closed these businesses down. Right. This is different than any other downturn because we decided we needed to shutter 20% of the economy to slow the transmission of the disease. And so that means the critically important step is to open the economy as quickly as possible at that point where we know the virus might not overwhelm the healthcare system, and really get businesses open and people back to work as soon as possible.
All right. If we want to read the full report, where can we see that?
So they can go to our website, clucerf.org. CLUCERF.
right? Yeah.
ERF.org. And actually what I encourage people to do is to click on the link that says the blog. We've made much of this report public on the CERF blog, a CERF blog. And then yeah, that's the best place.
It's a very interesting read, I have to tell you. I read through it, and it's very, very telling and very interesting for those folks who are interested in what that all might look like. Thank you so much, Dr. Fienup. It's great to see you, and wish you well. Stay safe.
Yeah,
and we'll
be well. Good to see you
soon. We'll talk in a couple of months to see how this all worked out.
I look forward to that.
All right, thank you.
Basketball legend. He's a great guy. He's a philanthropist, and now he's doing what he can to help victims of coronavirus. My friend, Bill Walton. Hi, Bill.
Lisa, we will get by. We will survive. We are alive. It's fantastic to be with you again here. And we're taking this opportunity when everything has evaporated and the devastating crisis that we're in right now across all fronts. So we've started an action program to get something done here. We've started Bike for Humanity. You go to bikeforhumanity.com. It's a virtual program. It's free to sign up, free to participate. The only thing we ask is that at the end of the day, when you look around, you contemplate, you consider making a donation to one of the organizations that we're raising the funds and the resources and the awarenesses and the consciousness for, because people have to eat, Lisa, and people have to have health care. And so we are working in conjunction with Feeding America and with Father Joe's Villages, always a stalwart of everything good. And then on the healthcare front, Champions for Health, which are the doctors and the nurses and all the healthcare workers who race to the front lines and get everything done with the people who don't have the healthcare opportunities that others do. And then for the personal protective equipment, there's an organization that's called GetUsPPE.org. And so those four charities are the ones who we're supporting through Bike for Humanity, and we're just going to do everything we can to make a positive difference here, Lisa.
I know that you are a bike rider. I know you love to be out and about on your bike, and I am wondering, because Bill, people are going to say, what do you mean a Bike for Humanity? Bill, we can't have people so close in groups riding their bikes around.
Lisa, this is not a group ride. This is an individual ride, and everything we do is in full compliance with the CDC. And you're also allowed to ride solo on your bike. So I put my mask on, I got my helmet on, all my regular protection, but this is a event where we are virtually riding together. It's going to be April 25th, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. You ride for however long you want, or do whatever you want. It's not about one particular activity, it's what you can do. What we're trying to do is to get people to think about the people who are really hurting out there. This is a matter of survival. We are going out there virtually, and then at the end of the program, at 1 o'clock Pacific time on Saturday, April 25th, we're going to have a big group party. And it's going to be a grand celebration. We're going to live stream everything, put all the videos together. We'll have all our friends get on, and we'll just have a great time. Hopefully be able to deliver large amounts of resources to these people who are just risking everything. My health is not something that I take for granted. I have had to start over in my own personal life because of catastrophic health crises 21 different times. This is the only time. This is the first and only time of those 21 times, Lisa, that I've been healthy, and other people are not. And so there's a situation where I have a duty, an obligation, a responsibility to do something to help.
I love that in the description of this, you are asking people, if they do tend to go out on a bike ride, make sure that they are 6 feet 11 inches away from each other for a certain reason.
Right, I'm 6 feet 11 inches tall. And I was a little bit concerned at the beginning because it's all about space. It's all about the social distancing. And when you're 6'11", I need a little bit more space. So when I used to play basketball a long time ago, I didn't want any of those little guys running underneath my legs, right? So I always just say, stay away from me, and if you come in too close, you're going to pay the consequences.
And then last thing I want to ask you, what are you doing now that you are in quarantine that you swore you would never do?
I've been sleeping later in the morning.
Really?
I never thought, I've always been, My mother, who's 93 and lives just 10 minutes away, always say, if Billy would only sleep past the sunrise. Because I've always been a guy that just woke up with the first light and said, let's get going. But I have shifted my rhythms, my biological rhythms. So now I'm staying up later, and I do lots of reading, lots of writing, working in the garden during the daytime, tons of time on my health, a lot of music, on the piano, on the drums, listening to music, and then a lot of communication. This has taken a lot of effort and planning and thought to get into this program, the Bike for Humanity, and we're spending a lot of time there. The corporate response in terms of the encouragement and the support that we're getting from the corporate world has just been overwhelmingly spectacular. So we're the luckiest people on earth. I have been able to sleep until 7 o'clock in the morning, but that's because I don't go to bed till well past midnight right now.
Wow. All right, so the Bike for Humanity, Saturday, April 25th, 9 to 11 a.m. You can do it out on the road. You can do it virtually. And we will make sure that all that information is on Beyond.tv. Bill, wonderful to see you. Please stay safe. Tell your family to stay safe. And then I said hi, and your mom and your in-laws. Make sure everybody stays healthy.
Thank you, Lisa. We're doing great. We will get by. We will survive. We are alive. Here we go, bikeforhumanity.com.
Hi, I'm Patrick Bird, and you're watching Who Are You People? Judge parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. No, you. Be seated. Sit down. What's the matter with you? Jeez. Hey, this is Petrie Hawkins Bird, and you're watching Carlos and Lisa.
You got a surprise for me.
You're gonna like this. I love good toilet humor.
Oh, yes, of course.
So, have you ever been in the situation in the restroom?
Yes.
And then you look,
and there's no toilet paper. Yes.
And you sheer panic comes over your face because you're like, now what?
You don't want to be walking around the bathroom looking for toilet paper with your pants around your ankle. If that's what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Which is embarrassing, to say the least.
You never know what could go awry there.
Okay.
So Charmin has designed something to help us out.
Okay.
I introduced to you.
Here we go.
The TP robot. Oh. It is a robot equipped with TP, controlled by your phone.
Oh, no way.
Since you know you have it in the bathroom with you anyway, you gross human beings. And it will bring you said toilet paper roll.
Oh, that's hilarious. So here's the thing. Instead of putting extra toilet paper rolls on top of your toilet, which is what you should do so you don't run out, when you forget, you go, oh, but wait. I have my phone. I can call my toilet paper robot.
Exactly. I love the toilet paper
Charmin
robot.
to the rescue.
This is a genius idea. Why didn't they think of this sooner?
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Right?
So this was at CES?
It's at CES, and it's a prototype. I mean, it's not available yet, but
well, you got a Roomba.
Why not?
I had a wipe bar.
That's disgusting. A wipe bar.
I just branded it. You're welcome, Charmin. I just gave you the name for your little robot.
He will only take 10% of your profit.
That's it. Great show, huh? Lots of stuff in there.
Lots of important information, lots of videos to put a smile on your face, hopefully. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll be here for you again next week.
BeondTV, BeondTV. See ya.